Welcome to the Heart of the Equation, where analytical minds explore leadership, professional growth, and the human side of success.
This is the space for business professionals in a STEM field to reflect, grow, and redefine success on their terms.
Together, we'll dive into challenges, transformations, and stories that can help you build an authentic, purpose-driven career.
Let's get this started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the second season of the Heart of the Equation. We are starting the second season with a very special guest. In the second season, we are going to have guests. As you know, in the first season, it was mostly us talking together, but we're very excited to start this new season with guest experts from the industry, from STEM fields, managers, leaders, CEOs. And we're so excited to meet Tünde today.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Pragati. Nice
Hello.
meeting you today.
Hi, so lovely to have you. Thank you very much for being here. We're so excited. We have so many questions for you. We can't wait to get started. Pragati, would you like to start?
Yeah. Well, I think we are going to first let Tunde start because I want her to. She does so many amazing things, guys, because it's so hard to even keep up with all the amazing stuff that she's been doing. If you don't follow her on LinkedIn, then you should do that immediately. Even like you can press the pause button and do it because that's the amount of amazing content she publishes. That's how we got to know her. But I want to pass it to you, Tunde, to kind of introduce yourself and let our audience know what you do.
Okay, thanks a lot, ladies. And just to put it on the table, I feel a lot of pressure here to be the amazing expert you are expecting. So I will do my best. But I'm really glad. And you mentioned Pragati, LinkedIn. I like these coincidental discussions and relationships that I think would not happen if you would not be out there. Sometimes it takes a while to be out there and start talking about things that are close to your heart, but then as a reward you get opportunities like this and good discussions. So that's what keeps me going. On the introduction side, I am my name is Tünde Lukacs. I am in living near Zurich and living in Switzerland since 18 years. I often like to say about myself, I'm a change advocate, and that comprises a lot of things I have been doing. I have a lot of changes, countries, jobs, becoming a mother, and all those things. So change advocate for me is very dear because it means I stand for change, and I like to deal with that also from a mindset perspective. If I had to put this on a CV, I have normal jobs as well. I am a part-time partner at EY, and I drive change and innovation projects for the firm in European firm in the European member firms, and work a lot with changing the way we were doing things for a long time, and working with people to change their mindset. And eventually that was also one of the instances that led me this year to start a new adventure, just another change. I started my own company, the Change Republic, where we democratize access to career growth through executive coaching, personal branding, speaking opportunities. So everything that is on the heart and passion side of change I put into this firm. And due to this, I think we also met and we started to interact. And here we are now today at this podcast.
Oh, that's so exciting. Thanks to LinkedIn, actually. I know some of the people who are listening to this, they have a bit of negative association with social media, but it has brought us to so many amazing people. One of them is you, and the content you share. I didn't know you before that. And it's just reading through, it connects on a very deep level to others. And that's like, yeah, I find that quite exciting that we can get to know each other on this level before having all the small talk and weather and all of the fluff. You really get to the point. Yeah, so that's wonderful. I want to ask the first question.
Yeah.
Change, everything you talk about change. What is really the change mindset? What do we mean by that? What is really happening there?
Oh, I think there is a lot of entry points to that, and probably you would give a different answer than me, or anybody else. I like I like to talk a lot about mindset in terms of change, because that's the thing that you can control, you can influence. You can't control a lot of things that goes around in change. And in my case, I went through economic downturns and job loss and company changing strategy. And honestly, 2025, we have artificial intelligence. So there is a lot of change in the professional side as well of our lives that you just can't control. But I like to focus on what we can control. And I believe mindset is a very powerful thing. And we have a couple of tips and tricks always to in a situation where you are going through something and maybe that is not a positive change at that moment, to push you through. And I like to show a lot in these events where I speak as well, the change curve, and to get from the left side of that change curve, where you are getting a shock, you are getting a frustration, you are in a depressed mode, in order to move on the right side and take a decision and integrate it into your new reality. I always think about how I can get the fastest to that right side of the curve, and that's where the mindset comes in, and that's where I think you can do something, even though you can't do a lot about downturn and strategy and AI.
Yeah, that is so true. Yes, exactly. Also, this mindset is it's the only thing sometimes we have and we can affect, because sometimes the environment is not behaving as we are wishing for. But also you mentioned something about being ready for that and kind of being faster for that. I think a lot of times, and not only in business, also in life, health, all of that, we put up with a lot of pain. We're just waiting for that explosion point for things to get really bad so that we do something about it.
Yeah.
It's quite sort of, some people wait until that, but some people kind of they're more proactive about it.
Yeah, and I think of change also as not one dramatic event that will happen and I need to prepare for that, but I rather like to think about that this is the era that we are living in, and this is so fast and so much faster than 200 years ago, that I believe all you can do is to develop a mindset. Others like to say it an attitude or a behavior, how you think through uncertainty. And how you think through uncertainty can really set you up for success, or as you say, wait for last moment and then fall down. So I like to think of those things. What can I do today? And what kind of, for example, with curiosity, what kind of questions I can ask from myself? What have I not thought about? Whom I have not consulted about? What kind of persons went through the same situation like me? And continuously ask myself certain questions that, for example, prepare me for when the Big Bang comes, to have a little bit of a different attitude.
And how does one know? How do we know we are finally, mentally and physically ready to make that like that big bold change? Like, what is the right time, and how do we know exactly?
So there are changes that happen to you, and then there are changes that you kind of initiate, or you set that up in situations when change happens to you. And I speak often also in my practice with people that are at some kind of career transition, or some kind of place where they need to take a decision which way to go, because something has been happening. I think what works best for me is really to focus on what you can do, and asking yourself the right questions is one thing that you can do. Having that, Sarah, you mentioned before, not waiting for that big bang, but having continuously that growth mindset to think that we are on the way and it is going to be okay, and at one point I'm going to go through in a position to just thinking I should have already figured this out, or I should have already done this. I think that is very, very powerful. So if you have these tactics and tips and tricks, and just last Tuesday we were speaking at an event And I was showing the people this change network that I'm using. I never invented that, but I'm using curiosity, growth mindset, harnessing your fear, celebrating your achievements, experimenting. These small tactics in order to bring you from A to B. And if you do this and you do this in a consistent base, it's not just when the meteorite hits, but it's when it's a continuous attitude, it's a continuous behavior you are doing.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. It's also, I feel the world has really changed after COVID, especially after COVID kind of stopped. I kind of feel like I had another business before COVID, and I think we were just doing things on rinse and repeat, and we were getting very, it was an e-commerce business. Things were working very easily, but since after COVID, I kind of feel like every 6 months I'm changing my business model. There is this webinar that I have done, I don't know, 20 times. This sort of things I usually do on repeat. Every time I have to do it very differently because the world has changed so much. AI is moving so fast, and all this change mindset. Maybe it was a nice thing to have for so many people before, but now if someone doesn't have it, they're going to really struggle.
Yeah.
So what is going on and why some people struggle with that, and how can they change that?
I think the awareness itself is really important. As you said, to have this awareness, things were different before because that was a different altogether economy, geopolitics, technology at a different level. This is 2025. This is where we are. I don't know what you think. For me, artificial intelligence made a lot of things possible that I have never thought. Without artificial intelligence, I would never have launched an own firm because I would have been thinking how I will, hire 3 people just to get started, whereas the barrier to entry now is so low. But of course, artificial intelligence also questions a lot of things. And as you said, some things worked in the past and then they don't work. So I think at the very beginning, it's just pause, acknowledge, because this is what it is. And if you're able to have this awareness, then, then again, you're able to take new decisions and integrate it into new ways of working. And as you said, it's not working. The webinar you were doing for your clients is not working. Then you realize, you reiterate, you try something new, you see if it's working, how long is it working, then you reiterate again and go out with something else. And I think a lot of times, and I can relate to that very well because unfortunately, I am not so young. I have lived different times. I think coming to that awareness that things just don't work like they used to is the very hardest step.
Yeah. I mean, really, even at the workplace, despite all of us knowing this, that, change is such a constant in life, the only constant in life is actually change and is actually kind of acknowledging or having that awareness. It's so powerful. But despite that, there is so much resistance. And I see this more in our workplaces. Even in our corporate workplaces where we are at the cutting edge of technology and there's something in technology that changes almost every day. How do you kind of advocate that in these big corporate settings? Because I often face this with my clients where, hey, if things work a certain way, why do you want to disturb it?
Yeah.
And
that's the $1 million question, I guess, because that's the very core of change management. Because why is there that resistance, right? Is that resistance there because someone is comfortable with that job as it is? Is that resistance there because someone is afraid that something, I don't know, quality will go wrong, something bad will happen? And you need to have the sensitivity to go to that resistance. You need to kind of understand where this is coming from. And if you're not able to, in a project, in a corporate setting, if you're not able to demonstrate value, what if you will do this change? You have a lost case. Then it's just a top-down push strategy, which in my opinion and in my experience, at one point at the chain is going to fail and go down because people didn't travel with you on that. So understanding where that resistance is coming from on a personal level, but of course, on a team level, on a group level as well, is super important. If you are the one that is running that change, then you need to have really good answers to why. Why is it good for you? Or why you cannot continue the way you have been doing, and why this needs to happen now and not in 2 years.
I so resonate with it, because every time so change is not about the tool that you're changing, at least in my world, because I come from tech. So change is not about the system that you're changing or the tool that you're changing, but it's truly human.
Yeah.
It's taking the people along and making them understand how this change is going to impact them and how it's going to change their lives. And only then do you have successful projects.
Yeah. And if that's not the case, and right now you are thinking what I am thinking often, and we'll always think, oh, but they just don't get the point. Then I invite you, to look for a better articulation, to communicate better, to be able to show better why you need to use this tool. How is your life Monday morning going to be better because you are now using this and not the old way? And how us collectively as a team, as a company, are going to benefit from this, as opposed to continuing the way. So if you manage to ditch that complaining mode and accusation mode, and really address resistance at its heart, then you have a chance.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
I love this conversation because both of you're from consultancy backgrounds. And my corporate career, I was in a company in supply chain, very big corporation. We were on the receiving end of this kind of things. And there was always this thing about, oh, these consultancy companies, they don't know us, they just come, they want to change everything. And this resistant thing you were talking about, I was on the not
receiving end.
Yeah, receiving end, not exactly. I actually love those things, but I had colleagues who were much older, had worked for the company for so many years, and supply chain jobs, you have to be agile, things are changing all the time. It's a very stressful, high adrenaline kind of environment. And it takes time until people learn a system. And then when there is like new change all the time, they get really tired.
Yeah.
And we had that resistance. So yeah, it was very interesting to listen to you, see how you describe that and how you actually see the human side of that.
And I think it's super interesting because you see this as in a corporate setting as well. But then what I have seen this, and that also that realization eventually led me also to want to deal more with mindset and also do it as an executive coach, is because then there are those people then that are being sent the email, that are being that are listening in the webcast, that don't understand why are these leadership consultants, why do we have to do this? And then they have from this also a private situation, because they have from this a career situation, they have from this am I at the right place? What do I have to do next? And I often have these discussions in my coaching practice with people who face situations in maybe their companies where this hasn't been clear. It's not clear for them why are things happening, and it has a very deep impact, not only on a corporate level but down on the human level, because this is then essentially a reason why somebody thinks, okay, then I don't want to work here anymore because I don't know what they are doing with me. Why do I have to do this? So it's super interesting to see those dynamics, if it goes wrong at the very beginning, how it impacts, you and me at the end, the humans in the story.
Yeah, that is so cool, because those days the approach was not to acknowledge us. It was just, this is happening, just get over it and do it. And I also wasn't familiar with coaching those days. So now from what you say, I could see how important it is for humans just to be seen, heard, acknowledged, even if you're not on the agreement with the topic, but just to sort of say that, yes, I'm hearing you and I'm here to do something that is helpful to you.
And often that is the only thing that you do, also in a situation as a coach, but also as a team leader. The only thing that you need to do is just to listen, to provide space, to for people to rant, to complain, to cry, to put their emotions on the table. It's not less about giving an advice at that moment. It's really about providing a space to understand just what's going on. And I think this is a really, really big challenge, because when do you have the time for this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think because the way you talk, it makes so much sense that, coaching is so important to you, and it's so close to your heart. So let's kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about that. Tell us about the coaching, the executive coaching that you manage on the side, and like, how do you do this?
I have been always doing this, and I'm also doing this in a corporate setting as an internal coach. I have been doing this also in an unofficial role, because again, this thing that you listen to people, then certain people will find you, and you will be the go-to person. And I have always been privileged to enjoy such trust and such relationships. And then again, a story I often say, in my private life, this has also started a little bit longer ago. And if you allow me maybe two minutes, I will tell you
We have
what
time.
what exactly led to that. So I grew up in a post-communist country, in Hungary, and if anybody from your listeners can relate to that, in those times, in the 90s, and before as well, we were taught to work hard. And because if for people like us, working hard meant the only way to climb up, to become something, to achieve something. So that's what I did, and that served me really, really well for a very long time, until at one point, in my very first job, actually, the company I worked for went through a reorganization, and I was out, and without good explanation. The only explanation is pretty much every second person goes, and you were the second, and not, you were in the even line and not in the odd line. And that was for me really transformation. I didn't know that at the moment, but I carried a lot of that into what I am today, and thinking, okay, you can't only rely on working hard. Working hard will always be a kind of a precondition, but it won't protect you from things that you cannot influence. And we spoke about those things you cannot influence. So that led me also to focusing on mindset, and then all the corporate experiences, seeing how much one person can, block a project, even if it's the best tool and best process. So all those things fascinated me on the human side, and led me to the realization that mindset is a very powerful thing. And as a coach, you also get the tools and the education to do this on a very hopefully good and powerful means, to help people to tap into their own potential. So that's what led me into this, and because I do certain things in the company I work for with great passion, and I also thought there is another route, and I would like to try doing this also in my own setup, and maybe also provide that opportunity to people outside of my company. That's how it came to the Change Republic, and that's my 2025 experiment, and and really passionate, obviously, about that, with all of that comes, which you probably can relate very well, comes with setting up your own company and having a bit of a business mindset as well. Yeah.
So inspiring. I think both of you have this in common, Sarah. Both of your passions have kind of driven you to go into the coaching, right? Maybe you want to add something on this.
For me, I didn't even know what coaching is until I had a coach. And in my corporate job, I had mentors back then. We had mentors to help us with negotiation, things like that. So for me, it was the first time that someone was not telling me you should do this, you should do that, just listening to me, almost like a therapist, but a therapist who knew about workplace and all of that. I was like, this is really cool. So that's how I got into it. And I was also wondering, like, how was your experience the first time? Were you familiar with this, or there was a time that you really experienced transformational coaching yourself that inspired you?
Yes, I also had coaches before, and I also had coaches that had the desired impact on me, and that I also had coaches which wasn't a match, because there is a lot on this also, which is match. And you mentioned, Sarah, at the beginning, you have been reading through my LinkedIn profile, and this is exactly why I'm doing that type of activity, because the people that come to me to work with me as a coach, they have a solid base also to filter whether this is going to work for them or no. You understand the tone, you understand the vision, you understand the ideas, and I think that is very important in such a human-to-human relationship, like coaching. So I also had my experiences. I also did have transformational experiences, and a lot also has to do with IMD, where I studied executive coaching and was in the hands of great people, and maybe they showed me things that was outside of the box I was thinking about. So you need to also, if you do this on a professional level, you need to yourself go through the transformation. I would say you can't stay outside and take it as a job where you put tools into place and that's it. You need to have it somehow in yourself, and I have done that road and continue doing that, because we don't stop doing that. And collect my experiences, and I have done many things wrong probably, and will continue doing many things wrong, but I think it's unavoidable, because we are just humans, and hopefully also in the age of artificial intelligence we will be needed in this role as humans. So vulnerability is part of that, and making mistakes is part of that.
Yeah, I have one question about artificial intelligence, because I'm a big fan of it, you know. Actually, recently I was reflecting on how much money it has saved in my business. So the stuff I'm doing with AI, I used to have a social media manager. I used to have someone who would help me with content creation. I used to have someone with all the processes. So all these people, I was paying them something to do the job for me. And now most of it is kind of done with the AI. I check things, of course. I still have help from humans. So I'm also kind of thinking I've got a bit dependent on it, but hopefully this is not going away anywhere. But there's also a trend that people are using AI as a coach or therapist. So it's good for asking questions. I think it also mirrors back to you. So the level of conversation you share with it, it will also stick to that level. But how do you see this trend? Like where does humanity stand in this situation that when AI can become your coach? What are we doing?
Wow, I didn't know that it was acting as your coach or your therapist.
It does. I use it a lot myself.
Wow. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So I'm very curious to hear now.
And as you say, Sarah, I mean, it does amazing stuff. I also use this as a coach. I have my coach Tünde GPT as well, which is the better version, which is the super version of me, and it's amazing because obviously if you train it with your voice, with anonymized user cases, client stories in a very anonymized way, obviously with the proper knowledge from reputable sources for coaches. I mean, it does amazing stuff, and I use it as well as preparation, as thought provokers, as challenging my own assumptions. So asking, this is what I did in this past session. What could I have done better? So I use it also as kind of mentoring me. It's amazing. You mentioned you can also, there are also quite some nice upcoming solutions on using it, buying it as a service. Honestly, I think in coaching as well and in other areas of life, I think the ones that will figure out how to collaborate the best with AI are going to be the winners. So also for coaches, if you are able to figure out a way where you collaborate, you enhance whatever your efficiency, your quality, your communication, whatever you want to enhance, but still retain that human element, why you need to wake up in the morning from the bed and need to do that actual job. And, whichever form, maybe it won't be anymore like a 60-minute discussion like we have right now. But if you figure that out, I think there is that human element always needed, but not everybody will figure that out. And I think that's just the flavor of the times.
Yeah, I totally agree. For me, it's like the human part is the energy of the humans, is the emotions, it's just knowing there's another living creature on the other side who kind of knows your emotions, because AI is it understands emotions from a
Very much.
intellectual point of view,
Very
and it's
much.
like amazing how it knows. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, this is so crazy. But at the same time, I feel like there is no one on the other side that is feeling my pain or knowing my joy, or like it's a bit of that, but then at the same time the intellectual part is just fascinating.
It's fascinating, and there's no other way than to embrace it. I love what you said, Tunde, that it's the collaboration of AI and humans that's going to create really, really powerful solutions and going to change the face of business. And it's important to embrace it than to kind of keep complaining, which is kind of, I'm hearing two sides of the story right now, where there's so much in the market where it's being criticized, and that creativity is kind of going, it's just going away from the human. So there are many aspects to this. It's a complex topic.
Yeah.
But if you allow me, Sarah, may I challenge
Sure.
the thought that I also struggle a lot understanding, okay, where is this level where also, of course, my clients tell me, yes, of course, the human element and you. And I always think this is what we think with our 2025 brain, who have been exposed to artificial intelligence. I mean, I'm not a data scientist. I've been exposed essentially maybe 2 years. But imagine going down the road, 10 years in this super evolving technological environment where the perception of what is machine and what is human is also going to change in the next 10 years. So if you would ask a coaching client in 10 years, in 2035, maybe they would say a completely different perception of what is that human element that you want. And I think the trick is, if you want to do in 10 years coaching as well, the trick is to figure that out and see where that trend is going, because the perceptions of where we are needed and what is the value that we add is changing by the day.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's also, I don't know, in 10 years, would people want coaching in the same way we want right now? Or so much is going to change. It's also it's at the end down to the need that people have. I also think coaching is just a skill. I don't see it as a job. We do a lot of things, and then coaching is just a skill that helps you have a good conversation with people. It helps you maybe be a good parent, good team leader. I see it like that. But I'm always asking, like, where is this going? Would this be valid? What are the other skills we need to have? But it's also something I think AI is mirroring human collective consciousness back to us, because it's collecting all the data from the world, from all the humans, everything. And what we see there is a mirror of who we are. Maybe we don't like to see it, but it is what it is. And I think that's just crazy. It also has the shadows, it has the everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, also that element, in my case, the way I challenge myself on a weekly basis through the AI that I use also as a coach, and I ask, I share how I am as a human with AI. And if I do that, consistently, it learns much better how a human is. So I think it's very exciting to see where this one is going, and especially for me, because I have a 13-year-old child. For me, what is important is what should I encourage him to learn, because barrier to knowledge just dropped to zero with this. So just learning at the university lexical knowledge like we used to do, forget it. Where should I coach him to look at what is valuable? That is super interesting for everybody who thinks across generations.
Yeah, so cool.
It's fascinating, isn't it? We could talk about this for hours, right? And
Yeah.
and we will still have so many perspectives on this.
Yeah.
I have one more question, Pragati, if you allow me, about coaching.
Mhm.
Your area of coaching, I think you do executive leadership coaching mostly, is that correct? Is this, if that's okay to share, is this like a trend you see in your clients, like the kind of topics that are challenging for them? What do you see is happening these days? Like if you see a pattern, I would be very curious to know.
So the pattern I see is the following: is that it's really change, and they don't say it maybe that way, but there is something going on which questions in them mostly their own ability, and there is a lot also to do with confidence and clarity. But I think the wave of these things, how change is happening, is just so intense that a lot of people come to coaching situations. And coaching used to be available for executive coaching, for executive level only, C-level only. In my experience, it is not a C-level problem only, or not a C-level a problem statement only. It is definitely the question of where am I going from here, and the connection between, of course, the professional life and then the private life. What do I want to achieve in the next 10 years? What do I need to do in order to get that? And those are the patterns. And they don't articulate often like this. They articulate like, I need to be a better public speaker, or I need to present better to my managers. If you dig, then it is because there is something going on that questions them, the old reality, and they haven't yet figured out where is the new reality. So that's what I see, and I think that is independent from seniority. In that sense, there is as much of a question for a 30-year-old as for a 50-year-old, and I have had that spectrum. There is no difference in the challenges. There is a difference how you articulate or how it hits you today, maybe.
I can resonate with that. Yeah, it's I mostly coach like people who are like mid-level managers. They're not C-level, but also the ones who want to start a career, something else on the side. And the topics, okay, uncertainty is something, but how to be visible and all of these sort of challenges of how to be authentically you, but expressed in in other ways. And I could see the problem is never the problem. I think is
Yeah, it's a symptom.
the symptom of the problem. But when you dig down, I think a lot of people notice that they want to be more themselves, they want to live more authentic lives, but the environments and the habits they have is making it very difficult. And
Yeah.
breaking that shell is the challenge that what brings them to coaching. But what you describe on a C-level, executive level, is pretty much the same as like someone who is like early on in the career, they want to change things, and it's all down to how can I be myself fully.
What I see as a bigger difference, and this may be also through my son, is that they don't think anymore in long-term truths, or in in truths graved into stone, or things that will happen for a long time. And we often speak about the attention span, but that attention span is also like a vision span. They don't think that what is today will have to necessarily be forever. And I like that. And I like when my son puts me nuggets and challenges me around that, because they are, in my view, much more adaptive, because they don't think things should remain the same, because in one generation so many things go on. Yeah. Whereas in our parents' generation, that was one thing, and that was forever truth often.
Yeah, that's so weird. I hope any HR manager who's interviewing people listening, please, this question, who do you want to be in 5 years?
In 5 years.
Yeah, this I think this question is also losing its value, but they keep asking it. And yeah, things are changing. I don't know. And it's okay not to know that and just see what's happening.
Yeah, and it's okay not to know it. It's okay.
It's okay, yeah. It's absolutely okay, yeah, to not know it.
Yeah, I don't know. Have we? I've lost track of time. How are we doing? Because we could talk forever.
You ladies have to cut this thing, I think, massively if we go on. But I'm here.
No, that's okay. If that's okay, I have one more question. if you're in this sort of traditional, this is the challenge I had. I also live in a more traditional part of Switzerland. Here, companies are very traditional. They're doing a very good job, I must say. But you're in this environment that a lot of people would like to just follow the routine, what has been working so far. And if you want to be the one who has a new idea, it's going to be not very easy to bring it forward. So what do you do if you're like the black sheep in an organization who has this creative idea and want to get through?
So it is admittedly a generic question, so I will have a generic answer. But the way I approach it is, and you used black sheep. So if you are really a black sheep, because that is your authentic self, because that is the set of choices that you would like to take, then I don't think this is a black sheep. I think this is something just like you are you. And if you are in that true to your values, and this is why you think that idea makes sense, then at one point you are going to go for that idea. So what remains for you is then to think, okay, how can I challenge my environment to kind of embrace with me? Or if that is not going to happen because of A, B, C, D, and a lot of factors can play there, then you are going to look for your own way to make that happen, make that idea happen. If that is true to you, if that is coming from your authentic self, if that is coming from your values. So I think it's a little bit less the question, okay, how do I handle being a black sheep? But I think it's rather the question to yourself, do I really want this idea, yes or no? And you will go, if the answer is yes, you will find your way and you will go through this.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's your conviction, right, that makes you take it forward.
Yes,
and be okay with that.
Exactly.
If you're a black sheep, yeah.
Because if then your environment is challenging you on those things that are core to you, that are so integral to you, that are your values, if your environment can be a lot of private professional, if they will challenge you, they will violate that, you will not be okay with that. And you can be okay with that because there is a situation, because I don't know, invoices have to be paid, but you will not be able to live with that. So you will find your way.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
So while we wrap up, one last, maybe Tunde, you can give us some tips, because you're doing so well on LinkedIn and a lot of people want to, but they are very shy of, kind of telling their stories or presenting their vulnerable side. So how important do you think is it to have like a voice on LinkedIn?
So because of the story I told you before, because also of how, we relate to each other, if we know each other's human side, I think it is very important. This is my opinion. I think it is very important to have a voice if you have something to say. But having that voice is not something we are, let's say, born with, or that you figure it out in the second week, or that you can do any crash course or any free webinars and then know it, okay, how I will do it. I think there it's a lot also to go, okay, who am I, what I want to talk about, what is my unique value, who am I talking to? You can't talk to the world. You will not be able to talk to the whole planet. Who is it that group of people I want to talk to, and what I would like to talk about? So doing that exercise, like essentially what is important for me, what is my message, I think it's unavoidable. And yes, if you ask me, and today you ask me, I think it's super important to have an authentic voice on social media in a professional setting. That's pretty much LinkedIn, and that's it. Because I think good things can be born out of that, like
this.
Exactly. Yes, yeah, that's so true. And also, I think sometimes people get dissolved in the big brands they are working for. This is at least something I see with clients. They work for these big corporation names, and they have forgotten about their voice. And then suddenly, when they want to be themselves and talk about it, they feel like, oh, what would my colleagues in the office think about it? What would my boss
Yeah, that's
think?
what I meant. Yeah.
I hear that every week. What would my colleagues say about this? Like, but it's basically we're making ourselves small because we have forgotten about ourselves. And this LinkedIn or all these sort of platforms, they give us the opportunity to share what we have, and it becomes our personal power.
Yeah, and the two are not excluding each other. So a strong personal brand is strengthening the corporate brand, and the other way around. So it's not either or, it's together. And there are several corporate leaders also in the Swiss market who know this, who are out there, who are speaking about topics that are important to them, that are in alignment with the values of the companies that they are working, but still they don't just post the newest report or use it as a marketing billboard, but they tell it through stories that people can connect to. Because I believe that to our discussion, okay, what remains human, being able to connect in this huge noise of AI and artificial enhanced communication, I think this connection is not going to go away. So you can also transmit your corporate message in a much more powerful way if you remain human, if you are coming through showing failures, vulnerability on a professional level, all, of course. So that's I think the challenge to understand, but that's a journey we are all on.
Yes, that's a great point. And talking about connection, before we forget, how can people connect with you? Of course, you would put all the details in the show notes and everywhere. How can they find you and connect with you?
Yes, definitely through LinkedIn, I would say, if you are in the Swiss environment, I often go also to events as speaker, but then you will also know about this at my LinkedIn page. Normally, I always post about this before and after. So the best is to follow me on LinkedIn, also to follow the Change Republic on LinkedIn. There I also put some content which I don't put always on my personal side, and looking for good discussions like this one and opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. I could have another 2 hours doing this. Pragati, is there anything you'd like to add, or shall we wrap up?
Totally. I mean, I would just like to extend my heartfelt thanks, because this was so valuable, and I'm sure people are going to learn a lot. And like I said before, I encourage everyone to follow her, and that's the best place to also connect with Tünde. And of course, we will link up Change Republic also in our show notes. And thanks again for being here.
No, thank you in the first place for creating this space, for creating this platform, all as a side hustle, and for giving voices and making people hear these voices. That's really great, and keep on creating this value that you are doing here. So thanks a lot, Pragati and Sarah.
Thank you so much, Tünde, for being here. We're so grateful, and thank you to everyone who's listening, and bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Equation. If this episode has sparked something for you, we'd love to hear about it.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram to continue the conversation.
And if you know someone who is navigating their next career step, share this episode with them. It could be exactly what they need.
We'll see you next time as we explore more about leading with purpose, resilience, and authenticity.
Let's keep growing together.